Greetings and welcome to the Social Work Field Instructor Orientation for the Social Work Department at Briar University. My name is Marguerite Reinert and I'm the Director of Field Education here at Briar in Sioux City, Iowa. The agenda or topics to be covered today is what is the mission and purpose of our institution and also of the field of social work and our program. We'll talk about what the individual roles are in the practicum experience, as well as the goal for fieldwork orientation. We'll then move on to the supervision and formalized supervision process. We'll also discuss the Council on Social Work Education's course competencies and practice behaviors by which students will be evaluated. And finally, the nuts and bolts of some of the forms and assignments that will happen over the course of the semester. Here you will see the Briar University mission. In our mission, we state that we are a community committed to higher education. It also goes on to talk about our root in Franciscan tradition of service, and that we emphasize quality education for all students that combines a broad intellectual background with career development, and that we encourage our members to grow in self-awareness and in their relationship to others and to God. And in particular, our social work program is really rooted in that Franciscan tradition of service, caring and openness to all. Our academically challenging curriculum, it enables students to integrate and apply knowledge, values, and skills of the social work profession in order to become competent BSW general social workers. Field education is an educationally based experience with competency outcomes. It is a student's opportunity to integrate knowledge and skills and values of the profession in a hands-on way. It provides opportunities for growth, change, empowerment, and transformation of the student from a student to the professional. The mission of field education, as I said, is turning that classroom knowledge and the acquisition of that into the application of it, or the showing and doing of it. And in their placement, students are provided the opportunity for that to happen. And when a student completes their field experience, he or she should be ready to enter into the profession of social work. There are three main roles in field education. One in field education would be the instructor or supervisor, which would be yourself, as well as a task supervisor. And a task supervisor can be put into place, and that is someone who is also giving guidance and direction to the student, but isn't their overall supervising social worker. And then, of course, there is the BSW generalist student, who is the active part of the field education process. And then finally, in the field education office, there would be myself, the field education director. And also there are faculty liaisons. And in our department, Melanie Birdie Hickey is our designated faculty liaison. So some of you may have interactions and supervision and guidance under her direction. So why are we doing this? What is the purpose of gathering folks together for this orientation? We know and appreciate that there are high demands of agency supervisors. Supervisors are oftentimes not just in the role of a supervisor. They have to balance the demands of the agency, the clients, and the requirements of the field. And then with hosting an intern, they're balancing all of that with the needs of the student or their supervisees. And so us knowing that, we want to, in hopes of having this training, to eliminate stress and any anxiety or question or things along those lines that you may have, and to clarify the expectations that are associated with field education. We are ultimately here to help our students learn to be social workers. not just in a particular job or with an agency, but creating the opportunities, again, to integrate that theory into practice and have a well-rounded experience and a preview as to what life is like as a professional social worker. So the formal social work supervision is a critical piece of the practicum experience. And so what are some important things that we need to know in that process? We ask agency field supervisors or supervising social workers to set aside at least 30 minutes a week to meet with students for a formal supervision meeting. In addition to that, it's always best practice to have some check-in time with the students in between those supervision sessions, because ultimately those will create and have opportunities for teachable moments as they move along through the practicum experience. Now, the purpose and role of that supervision in that formal sense with the supervising social worker is to really teach and role model practice skills of social work. And for that individual to share their professional and ethical knowledge and experiences with the student, but to also be mindful and keep a watchful eye on their practice and clinical competence, and to evaluate their self-awareness and functioning. Are they functioning as a social worker? Are they aware? Is that competence present in their performance? And also socialization to the profession of social work, and also professional etiquette as well. Because again, we are ultimately training students to be professional. And that formalized supervision piece is a great vehicle to help them move from student to professional by the time they graduate. So what would the student intern need from you as the supervisor? They need you to share your expertise and practice wisdom with them. They see you as the expert and the one that will teach them how to be professional. Also, assistance in developing their communication skills and the how-to of social work. How is it that we do what we do in our profession? They'll also look to you for guidance and trustworthiness to develop some confidence in themselves and provide the stage for them to be willing to challenge themselves and try practicing the skills they've learned about for themselves. And they also will look to you for processing of personal and professional responses to their experiences, and in supervision, what they're hearing and what they're learning. So the role with that supervision meeting for the student would be to reflect on what's happened over the course of the week and to look, are there any conflict or feelings? Is there any ethical dilemmas? Those kinds of things that are happening. It also gives that opportunity to exercise critical thinking skills and focus attention on the learning plan that includes those core competencies. And we will get to that in more detail in just a moment. And the student's role also is as a backdrop, always that NASW Code of Ethics. Is that in line with what your tasks are, any conflicts, anything like that? And also, most importantly, being open to feedback. And speaking of feedback, with the supervisors, having that constructive, honest, and direct feedback with students is essential. Focusing on their personal growths strengthens and challenges the student, but also looking at where areas of growth need to occur are just as important. And also assisting the student in the learning plan with the core competencies will be a part of your role. And discussing and modeling professional standards of social work, discussing the NASW Code of Ethics as it applies to what it is that they're doing. And for those of you that have a task supervisor, if possible, it would be a good idea and beneficial to have that task supervisor either involved in the supervision meeting or inform you on some of the topics or concerns or accolades that need to take place during that meeting. Now, if problems happen to occur in the internship placement, we are here to help. Prevention is always best in terms of if there's a red flag that you may see or something that looks like it has the potential to turn into a problem, to go ahead and prevent that with some direct conversations during supervision or direct to that student as you see them. But however, if they do occur and something does happen, it really is best to have some early identification and again, address them directly and honestly during supervision. Most students will typically and most often correct any of those issues once it's addressed in that supervision time. It's a good idea to also document areas that students need to make changes and meet with the students to address the concerns, again, in a direct manner that is respectful to the student, but also letting them know what the problem is and areas they need to improve. If needed, not notifying the Director of Field Education, myself, or the Faculty Field Liaison is another step that can happen. And if needed, making an arrangement for a meeting between myself and the student and or yourself as the supervisor or all three of us may need to take place if the issue is not corrected. So some reasons that may happen that could concern you would be on ethical conduct and or unsatisfactory performance. So on ethical conduct, you'll see a list of examples. So really it's anything that's going to violate the NASW Code of Ethics. And that's definitely something that needs to be addressed and also shared with the social work department. Unsatisfactory performance, if that student is violating any of your agency policies, or if there's an inability for them to cooperate in the learning process with yourself and with other professional colleagues. And, you know, it could just be an inability to meet the learning expectations or the expectations of the internship agreement. And if those things are occurring and are reasons for concern, if you've addressed them and there's no correction, then we do encourage you to reach out to either the Director of Field Education or the Faculty Field Liaison. So you've heard me reference several times the Council on Social Work Education, also known as the CSWE, and core competencies. What the core competencies of social work education are is basically the standard and benchmarks in which all social work students are expected to attain competency in by the time they graduate from a social work program. So all of our curriculum from their entry into our program through the completion of their practicum are all wrapped around these 9 competencies that you see here. And this also helps to form the student's learning plan and evaluation for monitoring their growth and mastery of each area in their practicum placement. So moving on to the nuts and bolts of the program. This is just going to be some of here's and there's that supervisors and students typically have questions on, and hopefully we can answer some of those preemptively. So some of the forms and assignments that will happen over the course of the student's practicum placement that are important to note here would be the department field manual. That is at this web address right here. You can click on that and it will take you right to the actual website of Briar Social Work Department, and there's a digital copy of the field manual there. Students also have timesheets that they are to submit to their course shell in our student management system, and that's going to need to be turned in every month. So the students will keep track of their hours that they are in practicum placement and request that you sign off on that to submit them. Another sign-off sheet that you will see is a weekly supervision sheet. So for every time that that formal supervision meeting occurs, The student and the supervisor will sign off on that. Now, this particular document only needs to be submitted at the end of the semester. This is going to serve more as your checklist, if you will, to ensure that you are keeping track and making those appointments every week. The agency information paper, students are going to be comprising a paper that is all about your agency. So what the models of practice are, the interventions that are provided, the population that is served, the structure of the agency, etc. So they may be coming to you to ask for some of that information or where it might be located. The client intervention assignment is where the student is providing a direct service to a client, and they are going to write a paper on what that experience was like. So that may be something during supervision time that you and the student might be able to discuss. If there's a particular intervention that they did well, or a tool that they used and they felt that they did a good job with that, that would be something that they could detail in that intervention paper. And also there's an ethical dilemma that they will need to tell the class about. So that could be in terms of ethical dilemma with a client, with the agency, or even if there is one that they have observed within a worker or yourself or something in the agency that has been a dilemma they've been either a part of or exposed to, that could be something they could write the paper on. They will also, over the course of their practicum placement, do a little bit of research and tell us about a particular aspect of the area of social work that they are doing their practicum in, and what is some research on a topic they want to learn more about within that particular area. At the end of the semester, all students are required to submit an e-portfolio, and they will be working on this e-portfolio over the course of their practicum placement. Students actually started to build this e-portfolio, or a highlight of their educational journey in social work education, a few years ago when they began in the program. And this will hold their professional resume, some of their academic achievements, examples of their work, and etc. So while they are in their practicum placement, when they're navigating the learning plan and doing all of the competency and actions within that, they will be looking for documentation or evidence that they can upload into their e-portfolio that will showcase their mastery in that particular area. And the big assignment that students will be working on, that they will be requesting your help and assistance in, is a macro level change process assignment. Now in macro practice, it's that professionally guided intervention that's designed to bring about change in an organization, community, or policy areas. So in this assignment, students are going to assess the needs of the agency and choose an area that is needed for change. They're going to obtain your sanction and have your green light to go ahead and pursue creating a proposed change process. So they'll recruit some folks for a planning committee. As they're in our Practice 3 class over this semester, they will be going through the different stages and steps of a change process. And they will follow each step as it applies to what their overall goal to change is. And that will culminate in a formal change process oral presentation and a paper. Now, you are by no means required to have to institute this change as the student is doing this assignment, but it would be something that they come up with your feedback, just for something in the agency, big or small, but doable, that could have a proposed course of action to make that change a reality. Now, you've heard me talk several times over the course of this orientation about a learning plan. So our learning plan and evaluation form it's done collaboratively with you and the student, and it provides the basis for the development of those CSWE competencies. It's really the hopes and dreams of what the student is going to learn and the practical hands-on activities they will do in which to learn it as they are in placement. And the expectation is that the student will have several different experiences that will allow for them to be evaluated through actual observable behavior. So students will progress towards the achievement of the practice behaviors and demonstration and proficiency of those as well. So here is one of the competency areas that you will see in the learning plan, in which this is an example of students' competency 2.0 of engaging in diversity and difference in practice. You'll see here that these are the practice behaviors that are listed underneath this competency. And so the internships and activities, being specific, what are their goals? How will they be able to do this practice behavior in action? And then that's followed up by when will they want to have this as an accomplishment? And then finally, the instruments that are used to measure each of these behaviors. So as you'll see here, there's a variety of things that they have listed for examples of how they can showcase that they indeed did do this practice behavior. Now, in the area of grading, the Director of Field Education or the Faculty Field Liaison, Melanie Birdie-Hickey, have the responsibility of assigning the overall grade for the course. Now, we will do this by synthesizing the coursework and the practice participation, those seminar assignments, what your feedback is on their ethical and professional behavior, and as we see as such in the classroom setting, as well as that evaluation form of each one of those competency areas. Well, that draws our training and our orientation to a close. We sincerely appreciate your willingness to host the Briar social work students as interns and support them in their development as new professionals. So we thank you for taking on this obligation and responsibility and for providing this opportunity to our students. We also, for supervisors that are professional social workers, we provide continuing education credits towards licensure for each time they supervise a Briarcliff University social work intern. So if that is the case and you would like to have CEUs for providing this supervision, please contact me or our faculty field liaison for further information on that. And again, thank you very much for attending this orientation and hope you have a great day.